Hello, I'm Dave and this is Fiver, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the pretty village of Winterbourne Abbas in Dorset. It's located about 5 miles west of Dorchester and the A35 passes through the village. And we're going to be walking a roughly 5.5 mile circular-ish route. We'll start with a detour to the west to explore the mysterious 9 stones and then have a look at a few things in the village before heading south alongside a wood called Big Wood, past a lot of ancient earthworks. And then we'll go across to Loscombe Wood, head north to the village of Winterbourne Steepleton, check out a few things there before heading back to Winterbourne Abbas. Now I'm filming at the end of September. It is another glorious autumnal day. The sun's out, blue sky, hardly any clouds. It should be perfect conditions for walking. Do come along with us. Well, my first big challenge of the day is coping with the noise of the very busy A35 road that goes from Dorchester to Bridport. It's the sort of main sort of east-west, west-east route along the south. Before we have a look at the village though, I'm going to make a little detour to the west. There's something interesting to look at, and I've just passed what's now a sort of used car business. Many years ago it was a little chef. Remember those? I used to love the old Olympic breakfasts and what are those Knickerbocker glories. Anyway, we're going to say head westwards on a permissive footpath. This is what we were looking for. Just go through this gate here. Now it could be quite dark in here because we're surrounded by trees on 3 sides and a road on the 4th side, and the sun's still quite low. But this is a group of 9 Sarsen Megaliths that were put here nearly 4,000 years ago, sort of late Neolithic, early Bronze Age. And it's a sort of circle of between 26 foot and 29 foot across. 7 of the stones are under 3 foot high, and then there are 2 larger stones to the northwest of the circle that are 5 foot high. And the stones are roughly 1 yard apart, although there is a 10-foot gap between the 2 large stones, suggesting either there was an entrance there or maybe there's a 10th stone missing. Now, experts really don't know why it's here or what it's for. I mean, it's unusual to have a stone circle like this at the bottom of a valley floor. And the stones probably came from the nearby valley of stones, which would have taken some shifting to get them here. And the legend is that you can't actually count them. Now, I'm told that local druids regard it as a sacred site and apparently perform religious ceremonies here, so we need to show some respect. But I was reading that in the past they were known as the 9 ladies or the devil's 9 stones, and there's also a folk tale that states that the stones are in fact children that were turned to stone because they were caught playing on a Sunday. Now there is actually a large fallen stone that was once standing about half a mile further to the west, right by the road. It's about 6.5 foot long and it's pretty much buried in the ground these days. You can only see the top, but there's no pavement to it and it's a very busy road, so I'm not going to go there, but I'll show you a picture from Google Maps. Now, as I make my way eastwards back towards Winterbourne Abbas, I should mention the South Winterbourne River, which is on my left, because the source isn't that far away, the other side of the wood where the stones were. And it is a Winterbourne. It basically dries up in the summer. There are actually a couple of rivers called the Winterbourne in Dorset, one in the north and one in the south, which is this one. And the South Winterbourne flows east through a number of villages and hamlets, all with the prefix Winterbourne. And it joins the River Frome at West Stafford to the east of Dorchester. Interesting that Winterbourne Abbas and Winterbourne Steepleton, which we'll see later, are the only two Winterbourne settlements that are spelt with the letter U. All the others, you know, Winterbourne St Martin, Winterbourne Came, etc., have got Bourne, B-O-R-N, rather than B-O-U-R-N-E. Well, here we are back in the village. Now this is the Coach House Inn, which dates way back to 1814, and it was indeed a coaching inn. I think it shows as the Coach and Horses Inn on a 1902 map. Of course, at one stage this was a turnpike road. It could well be our final destination. Now that building over the road there is the old Baptist Chapel, built in 1872. I think it's now residential. Well, this lovely church is the Church of St Mary. The nave and chancel originally from the 13th century, although the chancel was rebuilt again in the 14th century, and the west tower was then added in the 15th century when the nave was widened, and the porch was added in the 17th century. I think it's got 3 bells. Oh, I'll have our usual little quick peep inside. Well, there's the font directly in front of me there. And then just coming through the nave, there's a wooden pulpit on the left. And then just coming through to the chancel. I think that looks like the only bit of stained glass in the window above the altar there. See, there's a few offerings, jars of pickles and things. Of course, it's a harvest festival time now, so I expect there'll be a service celebrating that. And then just looking back, there's looks like a wooden gallery up on the northern side up there. Well, as far as the name of the village is concerned, well, the Winterbourne obviously comes from the name of the river, and I think it was recorded as Winterbourne in the Domesday Book. But the Abbas bit comes from the fact that it was once owned by Sarsen Abbey to the north between AD 872 and the dissolution of monasteries in the 1540s. Okay, we're now going to leave the village, head out into the countryside in a sort of southerly direction on a footpath that leads away from the church. We'll have a little stop just to look at the view to the north. Interesting, look at those electricity pylons that you can see just on the brow of the hill there. They used to carry on over onto this side of the valley, but in 2019 the National Grid buried about 5 miles of the overhead power lines underground. And this is the view to the south. I appreciate I'm pointing towards the sun, but you can see on the top of the hill there in the far distance the Hardy Monument. Of course, Logan and I did a walk up there a few years ago. Well, continuing to make our way uphill, stop to catch my breath. We're just looking over to the east there, the other side of the valley, with the sun being at the low angle now, it really produces those shadows and it shows the strip lynchets. Much easier to see them. A sort of medieval farming system, I believe. Well, there's a rather magnificent barrow, certainly well preserved. There are quite a few of them up here. Yeah, look, as you go along the side, another two further along. So we're continuing to make our way southwards along the side of a wood that's actually called Big Wood. And I did read that it was a D-Day marshalling camp in the Second World War that had something like 2,500 personnel and 340 vehicles hidden somewhere in there. Aha, now this is the way marker I was looking for. This is where we leave Big Wood and start heading eastwards towards a little road, I think. I tell you, it really is one of those really fresh early autumnal days. Great to be out. So the footpath I'm on now is actually part of the Jubilee Trail, which is that long distance path that goes from Ford Abbey all the way to Bockley Dyke. Goodness me, yeah, for a moment I thought that was real. Gave me a bit of a shock. Well, we've crossed a little road, still on the Jubilee Trail, although we'll be coming off it shortly. Just past a place called Loscombe Farm and heading towards Loscombe Plantation. Well, so we've been heading along the Jubilee Trail. This is looking back to the north where we've come up, because we've been heading south, and I think this is where we take a track off to the right there, which is over to the east, and that should take us onto a bridleway that'll take us back north to Winterbourne Steepleton. Good news, we are on the right track. Just come across a way marker. So that's looking back down the track we've come up. A terrific view of the Hardy Monument from here. We got quite close to it in the end. Oh, I tell you, there's an absolutely stunning view. This is looking to the north. And there on the very far side, that must be the Big Wood, where we were earlier. This is looking over to the west, and then gradually pan round And there's the Hardy Monument over in the south. Well, this is the little village of Winterbourne Steepleton, and just passing by the manor farmhouse with the crosses on the wall there, which I believe date to the either late 16th or early 17th century. And that delightful thatched cottage there, again I think that's from the 17th century. And there's the old manor cottage, 16th century. Now the building there is the old manor house, which dates from 1870, and it replaced an earlier building. I think it was a care home, but it was certainly empty in 2024. I think they might have been trying to get permission to change to assisted living accommodation, but I don't know what the situation is now. Well, this delightful church is the Church of St Michael, and it has origins to the 11th century. The present nave was rebuilt in the 12th century, and the west tower and porch added in the 14th century, and the chancel was then rebuilt in the 15th century. And the north chapel was then demolished in 1688, and there were alterations in the 17th and 18th century when the octagonal stone spire was added. And I think it's just one of 3 churches in Dorset that have a spire, not sure. I think it's got just the one bell. Well, sadly the church is locked, so we can't go in to have a quick look around. So basically now we're going to head westwards on the last leg of our journey back to Winterbourne Abbas. Just passing by where there was once a mill that existed in the 14th century. I think the present mill dates to the 17th century, but was rebuilt again in the 18th century. I'm not sure when it actually closed, but I did read that it might still have been working in the 1960s. Not sure, but it shows as a corn mill on old maps. Well, we're just about to come back into Winterbourne Abbas, and well, where the river passes through here, I think on a 1902 map it shows there were mill ponds here, and then it was used once as an area for watercress beds, but you can see a lot of it's overgrown now, although the ducks like it. Aha! Our final destination, the Coach House Inn. Well, we ought to pop inside, purely for research purposes for the video, of course. Well, folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We thought we'd do the end scene on a ridge between the 2 villages in glorious sunshine. We hope you enjoyed the walk today. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. So until we meet again, thanks for watching. And cheerio. Right, do you know what time it is? What time is it? Is it sausage time? Yeah.